But so that's how I started drumming, and they were cool with it. And you know, it's crazy. The same thing happened when I bought a cat. Bought a cat. I got a cat when I was, 29 years old. I was out living by myself, going to university still, again, I guess. And I decided I was going to get a cat. Because I figured I'm never going home again. So, of course, after I graduated, I couldn't find a job, so I went home. And I had a cat. And my parents loved the cat. And he's their cat now. He's been living there for 5 years. So, it's all funny how, you know, people didn't, you know, protesteth too much. Anyway, I wish I could have read the signs when I was 13 years old, but it didn't happen, so I had to play catch up. So, the next one will be starting in 1988 and to the present. So here we are in 1988, and I started drumming like a fiend. And after the first month of renting this little piece of crap kit, I decided I needed something better. So I went out and I rented a silver pearl. I think it was a 6-piece. Yeah, it was a 6-piece. No, it was a 7-piece. No, it was a 6-piece. It had 10, 12, 14, 16 kick, snare. 2 crashes this time. I paid extra to get an extra crash. A ride cymbal and hi-hats. And I rented that for 3 or 4, maybe 6 months. I just kept renewing every month. And then I was really serious about it, playing hours and hours a day, whenever I could. Whenever I had no homework, or even if I did have homework, don't tell anybody. So I decided, well, you know, I'm going to definitely be a drummer. I'm going to drum for the rest of my life, and so I'm going to start buying other stuff. So I bought a little crash, or a little splash cymbal, some cowbells, bought some wood blocks, some chimes, and I just gradually started accruing my own stuff too. And the good thing was that at the store that I had rented the drum kit, you could rent to own. So in other words, they would apply 60% of the money that you had paid for renting the set over the course of however many months you rented it to the cost of buying that kit. So it was Christmas time, and my dad said, you know, are you serious about this, really? And I said, yeah, I think I really am, yeah. And he goes, okay, I'll buy you the set. So I think it cost, I don't know, $400 or something like that. So after that, I went crazy, and, you know, I was so into Rush, but I couldn't play it. But I thought, well, when I can play it, I want to be prepared. And a friend of mine who was in a band at the time, he had a couple of little 8, 10-inch concert toms with no bottom heads. And he gave them to me. He goes, I don't want these here, just have them. And I still have them. And those are the 2 little toms that used to be on my old kit. And I still have them at home. I use them in my practice kit. And so, you know, I just begged, borrowed, stole, bought everything I could find. I made a little cowbell tree out of this junk. A friend of mine was a welder. I designed a little one of these. Rogers used to make them, and then they stopped making them, and I couldn't find one anywhere, so I reverse engineered it and did a real drawing of it and got a guy at a machine shop to make one of these. I still have that. I could probably show you sometime. Anyway, and because I got a double bass pedal, and so I needed some way of having a drop clutch, and they didn't have remote hi-hats at the time, and so then I'd been into it. It was early '89, and all of a sudden, I was playing on a Sunday afternoon, and I heard this loud guitar next door in the garage, and I was like, what? So I go next door, and these 2 kids, the kid that lived at the house was playing bass, and his friend was playing the guitar, and they were probably 15 years old or so, 16 maybe, 16, 17. And I was, you know, 22, 23 years old. And I said, I heard you play the guitar, and I have drums. They go, yeah, we heard you playing the drums. I said, well, why don't you bring your stuff inside and we'll see what we can do. Well, these guys were young kids in the late 80s, okay? So they were into like Exodus and Testament and Slayer and Merciful Fate and like just death metal, Death. I think one band was called Death. Gene Hoglan was the drummer, I believe, or maybe I'm misremembering that. Anyway, so we didn't have anything in common, but we wanted to jam. So we basically made an original death band, death metal band. So we wrote our own tunes, and we played together for probably 6 months or so, until I just said, you know what, I can't play this. This is just not, I'm not into it. I love playing with you guys, but you know, I don't want to play this. But the greatest thing about that was it was so challenging physically to play that music that I developed really good foot technique, and I could play fast, and you know, it really got my chops up to speed. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, so I kind of invented my own style of holding the sticks and using my feet and things like that. And so about that time, I decided that I was going to formally educate myself with the drums, on the drums. So I bought Dave Weckel's The First Step, I think it's called, or Back to Basics. And I bought Tommy Aldridge's double bass drumming. I bought Terry Bozzio's ostinato patterns. I bought Rod Morgenstein. It was called Putting It All Together. It was all about being diverse and playing in all different styles. And I just watched these videos endlessly, and I learned a whole lot from that, especially the Dave Weckel Back to Basics was the foundation of how I started really learning about drums. And just, I studied and studied and studied for the next 6 or 7 years, and played, like I said, played a lot. Like, I mean, 6 or 7 hours a day, if I could, whenever I could. Whenever my parents were gone or reading or playing the piano, I would be drumming with the doors closed and windows, pillows in the windows, you know, trying not to bother anybody, just crashing and banging around. And then I went away to university again in '97. And I didn't play, basically, for 5 years. But I was playing up here because I remember seeing this guy in the 70s, I guess it was in the 70s. And he was like this memory guru guy, and he was talking about visualization. It was on a show called Kids Are People Too. And it was actually quite a good show. It was a kid's show, but they talked to you like you weren't a stupid idiot. And the guy was talking about, they did this experiment with basketball players. And they had 3 sets of people. They had one that actually practiced free throws, but didn't think about them. They had another group that practiced them and thought about them. And then they had another group that didn't even practice, but they just thought about practicing. And then they came back after a month and they shot free throws again. And the group that had thought and practiced did the best. But the group that practiced and the group that thought only did about the same. So, you know, I remembered this and I thought, okay, I'm not going to be able to drum except for maybe the occasional weekend if I go home to do the laundry or whatever for an hour. And I can't play in my apartment because my neighbors would kill me. So I'm going to just think. So what I would do is I'd put my stereo on and I would sit on the couch and I'd think about what I was supposed to be playing. And, you know, air drum and stuff like that. And I had a little practice pad that I played. I'd sit there watching TV, the Seinfeld or whatever, playing paradiddles or whatever. So I kept myself interested, and I always was looking for new music. And this is at the time, I lived really close to a used record store, and